What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, Platinum Producers, Arkatech Beatz. I am Juggernaut,
I am Mike Trauma D.
and together we make the super duper group, Arkatech Beatz. If it's your first time here, make sure that you're commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Just make sure that you're able to follow and get those notifications. Today, we're going to be talking about the decline in hip-hop music. And who's to blame for that? Is it the artists? Is it the producers? Whose fault is it on why this music is declining in market share as per Billboard, as we recently read in the article? But we're going to kind of go through that and see, just kind of play through some ideas as to what's really the reason why we think the music may be in decline and not as dominant as it once was. So let's jump into it, man.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of theories. There's a lot
of theory, and we were going back and forth off camera. We were saying, hey, it's the producer's fault, and then you was like, nah, it's the artist's fault. And it's like, okay, it's a combination of who's to blame. We're pointing fingers at each other.
Okay, so we could separate it and say, okay, let's talk about the artists, right? The artists, are they actually pushing the button creatively, musically? Like, are they, the content that they're putting out, is it just pure violence and nothing else? Sounding like everybody else, sounding like every other artist? What are they doing to push the button? I don't hear anything great. Everybody sounds the same. You can't even, every time you turn on the radio, you're like, who's that? Is that the same guy from the other song?
It's basically
There's only a handful of artists that's actually being creative, if you think about it.
It's real.
There's certain artists that are really dope, but they have sort of plateaued. They sort of leveled off and have not done anything creatively to kind of jump out of what they've been doing. So, for example, I would say, as far as who's dope and who I really like to, if I had to give an example, is Lil Yachty. On his last project, is totally different. It don't sound like anything that's out there.
Totally different. Like, really taking that risk and doing something different. Yeah.
You may not like it, or this person may not like it, but you cannot deny that sounds nothing. This new project sounds nothing like what's been done prior. And I have to tip my hat off just to take that risk on your career for that. Even Little Uzi's record, when I first heard it, I was like, that club record that just recently came out.
I Wanna Rock.
I was like, when I first heard it, I was like, what is this? And this is a quote unquote supposed to be a rap artist, a hip hop artist.
Right.
Going to make a record like that, I'm just like, what is this? And I enjoyed that record for what it is. The energy, the dancing, which is a big hip hop element, the dancing, which cats need to get back to. So I found that record kind of breathtaking. Who else is there? Not much. Tyler.
These guys are pushing the envelope a little bit, but again, like there's a general cadence where, like you said, like it's all kind of cookie cutter. Yeah, it's all kind of, and it's been very mediocre for a long time. And I don't think anybody really wants to admit that. But I blame that on the producer community. I know some folks will say they blame it on the artist community, but I blame it on the producer community. I believe that the producer community has become sort of to what you said earlier offline. Basically it's turned into an assembly line of production. We're going to take, it'd be standing in line and each person is kind of doing something. We're taking this pack from this guy, we're taking this pack from this other person, we're putting them all together. All the tempos are the same, all the melodies are the same, and basically we're just generating the same output. And I don't think that there's any real creativity anymore that can really help to differentiate this guy from this guy or this artist from that artist. I think that's really what the problem is. I think it starts with us. We're the ones who have been able to creatively propel this particular genre of music. If we're talking about hip hop, if we're not if we're not looking outside of the normal places to make music out of, that's the one thing about sampling that people like to kind of dismiss. Sampling causes you to kind of look outside of your particular genre to add to your genre, and that's
Right.
kind of how you got things that started to feel more innovative, because it's like, okay, you're taking the another genre and you're making it hip hop. And I think because that's not happening now, I think because we're just kind of going through the regular mill of, hey, let me get this pack, hey, let me get this guy on keys, let me get this. And people have to realize when they're playing music and they have this stuff that they're used to playing. Sometimes if you're a musician, if you understand that you like to play in certain keys, or you like to play in certain uh like to use certain progressions or certain styles because that's what you're comfortable with, or that's what you were, that's what you were trained in. So sometimes you
Mhm.
may not even realize unconsciously that you're just really producing the same content over and over. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the producer is the one that shapes the music, shapes what comes out, and the artist is left to be the artist. The saying.
Yeah,
So the artist won't be the artist, and the producer is the actual one that's like, you know what, this comes out, this doesn't come out, or this is the type. He's part the director.
the
So
orchestra, bro, the
right.
orchestrator of it all.
So based on what the producer creates, allows how the artist makes their music, how the artist writes, how the artist flows, how the artist hits a record, pretty much.
Yeah,
So yeah, I definitely, now that you say that, I definitely agree with that. You know, maybe it is the producer, and that the producers need to do more. You know, to kind of force the artist to be creative. You know, an artist just wants to get on a record for the most part and do their thing, but it's also up to the producer to create a backdrop that's going to allow the artist to paint a certain picture. You know, I remember, for example, when Just Blaze and Kanye, when they were making records with the voices, the soul voices in it. Like for example, let's say "Oh Boy,"
yeah,
that made you rhyme, or the artist rhyme a certain way because the "Oh Boy" kept popping up. You know, that sample will come up, so you had to rhyme a certain way. You know, when Alchemist did the rec for Mobb Deep Getaway, you know, it made Mobb Deep rhyme a certain way, you know, for that record, you know. And there's a bunch of other records like that as well. It forces the artist to be creative, like that. What can I do or say that's going to work within the confines of this track? You know, and that forces you to be creative. You know, if producers aren't being creative and submitting records or playing records for artists that are creative, it's not going to allow them to come up with these creative ideas. It's not going to happen. If a producer is just given regular cookie cutter beats, then you're going to get some cookie cutter rhymes for the most part. If everything sounds the same, the rapper is just gonna go on there sound the same with the same flow, because there's certain beats you only could rhyme a certain way. You know,
and
that's
that's and
gonna
that's
have a
that's
certain flow.
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like we are creating the we're creating basically the foundation of redundant trash, right? It's like it's like we if we're not moving it, if we're not creating something different, like, like that's the situation. And also, you remember what started to happen too when we started now to remove to take some levels of lyricism out of hip hop, right? Because hip hop now, in some cases, you have your you have your lyricists like your Coles or your Kendricks or your Drakes or whatever, and then you have the other lyricists that kind of, they're just kind of there. Um, they've always made it very clear that they don't want to fight with the beats, right? So those levels of the beats that used to be rhythmically challenging or too dominating, or the beats that you remember that just used to be just crazy all the time. They don't want those anymore, right? They don't want that
Right.
music that used to drive that used to drive that culture into, damn, did you hear that? Like, damn, did you hear how that sound? Like, did you hear how that beat sound? It's because they don't want the challenge of trying to rap on it. They don't want the challenge of trying to find the right melody on it. They don't want the challenge of that. So they want to just be able to go in there, kind of hum a few things, okay, fine. I hummed it out. I throw some auto tune on it. That we're using all the same presets. We're using all the same recording presets. We're using all the same auto tune presets. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same. And I want to start screaming like T-Pain, like, hey, do something different, man. Like, Jesus Christ, do something different.
Do something different. And I think, the production collaboration, in some cases,
it was supposed to make it sound different. The collaborations were supposed to make the shit sound better. And it's not.
It was supposed to give new ideas. It's supposed to be like, okay, producer A has this idea. Producer B, had their own separate crazy ideas outside of the box, and they kind of merged it together and really creative, But what's happening is, if producer A is super creative and does something out the box, by the time producer B gets it, producer B may not get it, and it's like, I'm gonna add this to make it more normal. This beat don't have why did producer A leave a hi-hat out of this? Nah, let me put a hi-hat on it. But maybe it not having a hi-hat is giving it a certain edgy feel that it needs for the artist to be hit it a certain way, for it to be creative in a whole nother lane. So now producer B decides to add a hi-hat on it. Now the hi-hat now just sounds like a regular beat now because the hi-hat is on it. It gets to producer C, he adds what he adds on it, and it goes on there cookie cutter, and it gets to the artist, and he just raps regular on it. There's just so many elements that are added or removed that can hurt the rawness of a record, or the rawness of the vision the original producer had. And by the time it gets to the artist, it just sounds regular. So the artist is going to just hit it regular. And then,
but a lot of that is like, that's the business of music getting in the way of the creativity of music, right? Because like, we're guilty of that, right? Because let's say, for example, we're giving feedback. There's two types of feedback we can give you. We can give you feedback that can get you the best or the most creative in your music, or is the feedback we can give you that is going to make this record commercially viable, right? So if, say, for example, you wanted to get the music placed, there's a certain criterion that you're going to have to do in order to get your music placed, right? But that requires something else. And sometimes you can't take the risk that you would want to take because you want to get a placement, right? Because everybody is basically following the last guy and whatever the last guy did. So that's where the cookie cutter situation comes in. But if you want your music to be placed, it needs to sound like this situation in order for you to get to certain hurdles or certain doors. That's the reality of it. And the business may be hurting the creative side of it, because now we can't try the stuff because we're looking for the placement, right? So the times of us being able to go to an artist and like, listen to this shit, I just sampled the wildest shit ever. It has a 30-second shootout scene in it at the beginning of the track. Listen to this shit. And you're not able to do that anymore. Like, you're in a situation where you have to say, okay, it has to sound commercially, algorithmically viable in order for it to get placed, because if it doesn't fit these places, it's not going to get on, or it's not going to get considered.
That shit is such a crush in creativity, man. Like, there's nothing better than creating a record and you're putting all of these elements in it that's just not cookie cutter. You put these elements into it, whether it's sound effects or sound bites or just a long intro to build up a movie type vibe or feeling, and you're doing all of this stuff. You're taking the time out to really be creative. You're making the drum sound different. Maybe you're putting a hi-hat instead of a snare, or you're making your snare. Like, and it may not make it to who we need to get to, because the second or third producer you're collaborating would be like, nah, this intro too long. We trying to get a placement. Cut that intro. Take that out. Uh, 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 uh. You need a hi-hat to go like this because we want to get this in the club. So now put this on it and put that on it. You know what? Let's put an R&B person on the hook. And then that was never the plan. Now it just sound like everything else.
But that's the difference. It's like, you can't. Some people would say this is the formula that works, right? I'm getting the placement. I'm getting money, right? I'm not doing it for, for the love of the craft. I'm doing it because I want to earn a living, and I know I'm not knocking that, right? I'm not knocking that. We're trying to make, everybody is trying to make a living in this music business. Let's be clear. This is not a situation where people are trying to really do it for shits and giggles. People are doing it because they want to make a living. They want to make sure that their families are eating, so forth and so on. And I get it. At the same time, it comes at the detriment of innovation. We're not innovating any new shit anymore, right? And that's just the reality of the situation. It's like we're not innovating it anymore because there's proven formulas that work. And in the business as volatile as the music business, you don't have a lot of formulas that work consistently. So if you do find something that works consistently, it's like, hell yeah, you want to keep doing that. Because in times past, you've never been able to kind of see what the wave is, and you've never been able to jump on that wave as easily as you can now. Like, that's really the reality of the situation. Because back in the days, and I know that you didn't know what was going to be the next joint. Like, you just didn't know. You didn't know what was going to be the hit. It could have, it could have been from this guy. It could have been from this person. You don't know what the hit record was going to be. The hit records always sounded different. Like, the top records always sounded different. It never was like the same. It never was the same hit top record, or the same people all the time. You may have a few guys that rocked it for a little bit of a season, but then, eventually it would change.
Albums are not cohesive anymore, and I also
what's an album, yo?
Right.
Like,
but that's the point. I think also because of the way technology and streaming is set up, it is made to just the singles, the song. There's nothing that supports a album and the way an album is listened to. I think that's a part of why we don't have projects that is pushing the envelope. You just have a bunch of cookie cutter songs. I remember some dope skits that helped in a project, in the album. It helped you to get it, helped you to collect that get you that feeling. Just on skits alone, there's some memorable skits out there that to this day, you could laugh about, you could talk about, you could cry about, but they were a part of a project that helped you understand the artist in that time, and it went well with a record. There's none of that. We just got a bunch of producers all over sharing stuff, and everybody wants to play it safe, and I get it. Everybody's chasing the bag. Everybody wants to make sure that their record competes with the next record that was a hit, and they want to make something that can work with it or play behind it. I get it. But at the same time, as producers, if we're doing that, we have to set aside some time to actually be creative. We got to set aside some time to be us. And I'm starting to really believe that we don't have enough or a lot of real producers, real creative producers, that is. I think we just got a bunch of kids that's just slapping a couple of templates together.
Let's not say kids. Let's say a bunch of people that are putting stuff together.
They're slapping some things together, and they're not. And look, I can't even blame them. I can't blame them. I blame technology, and it's stuff.
You can't blame that either. Why can't we?
It's too easy. But it's too easy. It is too easy to make records. Just make records, period. It's you grab this, you grab that, you mesh it together, you got a record. Like, if you think about how technology was 10, 15, 20 years ago, and how difficult it was to actually make a record and what you had to do, how you didn't have enough sample time in a digital sampler, and that what that forced you to do, how
Right.
hard that made you say, okay, I gotta figure out a crazy way to get this sample to go, or I don't have enough sample time for this whole sample, so I gotta do it like this. You know, I don't ha- I got this snare, and I'm gonna have to loop the snare and the hi-hat together because you know, and how it made the record sound. If what it forced you to do, or it made you be so creative that you had to work within the confines of what I had. And to be honest with you, that's where creativity is born. When you're in a stuck environment, when you're in a stuck situation, and you're forced to create something within those confines, that's when creativity is born. Not when you have the freedom to do every single thing and you just choose and pick out, oh, I could do this, I could do this. No, that's not creativity. That's just you have shit here available at your disposal to do whatever you want. And that's what the problem is. We have too many things in our reach. Technology has made it so easy. Now that we have AI getting involved, we're gonna soon be telling AI what type of beats we want, and we're gonna sit back and watch it create it for us without even touching a keyboard. We're not being creative.
It was bound to happen, man. Like, you know how it
Like,
is.
Joe, you could take samples, not to cut you. You could take a sample and make it do whatever it wants now. Remember when you had a sample? You were just talking the other day. We had a sample, and now you want it to go this way now. And you do that by pushing a button. Before you didn't have that option. Before, like, damn, I have to find a way to make this work.
Right.
So you
Like,
know what I'm gonna do?
I can't change the note in the sample.
I can't change the note. So I'm gonna play the bass line or the low end in the opposite direction to make it feel like it's going in that like you would do little tricks and be creative to make a record sound a certain way. That ain't the fact anymore. Folks ain't being creative. Technology has allowed us to be lazy ass producers, and that's why we have music sound the way it is, which is freaking crazy.
Oof. You're saying a lot, man. Like, 'cause it is a lot of it is a lazy way of working now. I won't even front. Like, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier than it's ever been. It's a lot easier than it's ever been. And you know, I put a lot more of the blame on the producer because, again, we're the foundation of it all. If we don't push the envelope, the artists ain't gonna push the envelope. They're not. Like, the artists are gonna follow what we lay down. If we don't push the envelope and get the artists to feel something different, if we can't get into the room and say, nah, don't hit it like that, hit it like this. Nah, don't rhyme about that. Like that, like we gotta get off that. We gotta get off that topic, and then, it's that's what's causing a lot of the issues. And then when we talk about the decline of music overall, right? Especially in hip hop, a lot of people's careers were cut short because they were just really murked out the game. And nobody really wants to talk about that. Like, you have some really promising artists whose lives were cut short. You're right?
Yeah.
And no other genre of music has to worry about that. Their superstars aren't being killed. At this rate, all your budding superstars, people who had the potential to be superstars, they're not being cut down. So they're not passing away at this type of rate. So yeah, like if the genre of music is now creating a situation where it's tied to violence and death, you're gonna have people that don't want to consume it as much, because you have to also remember that this where we are in society, folks are not really with the aggression, like how we may have used to been, with it, 10, 15 years ago. Like right now, people are not really going with all of that. They call it toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic everything, so you're not going to be able to talk about some of the you're not gonna be able to get the venues and the stuff like that that you would normally get having that type of content, or you're not gonna
I
get
mean,
promoted, quite frankly.
you got we were 50 years celebrating the 50 years of hip hop, and you got to think a lot of the earlier fans, the early fans, the age. I would say the people who are in their maybe their late 20s, 30s, and up, you know, you know, they're some of them are at this point tired of hearing a certain kind of music, and the direction where it's going. And when I say that, yeah, we all grew up on the aggressive music too, but it just seems like not only does the music more violent and it's being portrayed in the streets and on social media, but there's also not much of a diverse catalog that we can see that's being pushed. There's a few, but it's just not enough, for the most part. And I hate to just single out one genre in particular, but I think a lot of people are just tired of the drill scene. They're tired of some of the trap records because they're sounding the same. Some of the artists are just rapping the same on them, saying the same stuff, and it's just. Uh, I think also as you're getting older, you start to be like, okay, I need something that's going to musically put me in a different space.
Yeah,
So I think that contributes to you know the decline. We can't listen to that 24/7. Or we're not in that mood 24/7. We need other types of music, and we need people to be creative and give us different vibes. A lot of fans are not just a certain age bracket. We got to remember that. You know, you have fans who are in their 30s, 40s plus, and artists, have to also, well, depending on the artist, got to think about, okay, what can I say or do that's going to pique these people's interests. We need more artists that have better content, better topics. People want to hear more about, not just what's going on in the hood, but how can we survive? How can we move forward? Of topics of ownership and not just having stuff, but owning. Like there's just so many different topics, but it just seems we're stuck on the sliding and riding on the nigga and doing the same old, and it's just it's getting a little boring for the same thing. Every artist, you know, in the video showing off their weapons, every video showing off their cars, every video like, okay, you got it, but can you give us some additional content that's dope? You know, something that we can feel, something that it's just too microwave, it's just too fast food, it's too, you know what I'm saying? Like we need something more, and I think that also, participates in the decline of hip hop. We need more. We need better. We got to step up. We got to be more creative. And that's what again. That's why I salute people like Yachty for trying something else. I salute Uzi trying something else. You know, Tyler's always creative, just trying other random stuff, whether it doesn't sound like your typical hip hop. I salute just try something else and betting your career on it.
that joint is real, man. It's not gonna move the culture forward, man. The culture is gonna get stuck. Like it's gonna get stuck, and all it's gonna do is gonna continue to decline. Is because we're not setting ourselves up for success. We've hit a wall, and we're not helping the artists to break through that wall. We're not helping the artists to do something different because again, we're kind of handcuffed to the output of a placement. So you're not we're not trying to give the artist any quote unquote real feedback. You know, some of us are not even in the position to give the artist feedback as producers in some cases. In some cases, the artists are not able to receive that feedback because you haven't created enough of a rapport, or you don't have the trust of the artist yet in order to to give them that type of feedback to say, hey, let's do something different.
And I think also on top of that, what we haven't touched on is the fact that while this is happening, there are new genres that's emerging. You know, there's new
That's
genres of
real.
music
That's coming.
that's popping up, and it's actually stealing the audience from hip hop per se. You know, you got Afro beats right now, Afro music that is being super creative. That is, there's a bunch of no name artists that's coming out that is creating some phenomenal music that is all over. You know, they taking things with melodies and production and rhythm and taking it to a whole nother space and level. And it feels good. It feels like something special. It feels different. And it's it's music that, you know, not only is it international, but it just crosses all age and crosses all types of people. It's not just catered to one, which hip hop has a tendency to do at times, you know, and to cater to just a certain, you know, and for hip hop or your record to be what we always felt that was great about an artist is when that artist can make a record that can supersede all of that. You know, when you got somebody like Biggie, you know, who could make a record like Warning, could turn around and make a record like Juicy, and be a artist that can make different kinds of records. Same with Tupac. You know, Pac was able to make records like Dear Mama and then turn around and make a record like Hit 'Em Up. You know, it like, and it doesn't take away for who that artist is. You're like, okay, that artist still being him. You
Yeah.
know, it's not obvious that you're trying to like you naturally being yourself. You're naturally making a record about your mom, or you're naturally making a record about the situation you were in, and it feels, you know, it feels real. It feels, you know, that authentic. You know, if you're not an artist that can do that, that can surpass just being cookie cutter, being in this area, you're not going to survive, and you're not going to push this culture forward, and you're going to contribute to the downfall of what's happening now. It's going to be boring music. We got to do better. We got to be better artists. We got to be better producers. We got to take risks. We got to try and push this thing forward, or else we're not going to have it.
Essentially, that's what's going to happen. Is that, you know, once they find a new genre to cling on to, right? If you can get another genre of music that's not going to have the violence and the negativity, what do you think is going to happen?
It's going to shift.
It's going to shift. It's going to shift away. It's going to shift away. If we're talking about an entirely different genre of music that makes everybody feel good, right? And that's really what's happening. If you're listening to it, it's like if people just feeling good about this music, it doesn't have the negativity on it. You can play it in front of your kids.
You can play it in your house.
You can play it in your house. You can play it anywhere.
You know,
what do you think is going to happen?
what's going to happen is that the support is going to be for those records. You're going to lose support for the other records.
Yeah.
Who wants to stand behind? Who wants to support? Where's the money going to go? Where's the deals going to go? Where's the sponsorships and the opportunities going to go?
It's going to shift. It's going to shift outside again, and it's going to wind up shifting outside of the U.S. You know, and this is the situation, and this is what people got to start really paying attention to. So what we're trying to encourage the producers to understand, and you know, and the artists, if you're an independent artist and if you're a producer and you're listening to our podcast, where we're trying to get you to understand is that, listen, you have to be able to see what's coming, and then you have to be also be able to chart a path for the future of the culture, because you know what we create now comes out later, and this is what people don't seem to understand. It's like we're literally crafting the future. Like we're making the music now. Like back in the day, you used to make a record, and this year that didn't come out for 2, 3, 4 years, right? And you're crafting the future. You're crafting the culture of the future. So you have to be able to make sure that you're looking and seeing what's happening, and making sure that you're not really cutting yourself short. I think when we start listening to some of the other music, some of the other genres that are coming up, and we're talking about other artists like say Burna Boy or Bad Bunny or like just a lot of different artists that are coming, and these guys are coming with fresh new things sounding good, selling a ton of records, getting monumental type deals, these type of things going on. Like how long do you think you have as a a US based hip hop artist? How long do you think you got when those things are happening in the background? When these guys are experiencing tremendous amounts of success. You know how the executives move. The executives chase the money. Okay? If they see that this genre is bubbling and it's making a whole bunch of money and it sounds like that, they're gonna stop giving y'all guys money when y'all sound like this. Like that's gonna be the reality of the situation.
So basically, I gotta get back to creativity.
Real
Get
talk.
back to creativity. I'm not saying, to go chase, the next height, and don't get the message confused. When this is bubbling, we're not saying for you to go chase that, because some people listen to this and say, well, I'll just chase the next height. Then if Afro music is it, then I'm just gonna start making Afro music. No, we're telling you to be freaking creative, man. Like producers, like maybe there's some records that you should not collab on. like keep something for yourself, man. And when I say keep something for yourself, man, that means your creative space. Like cut out some time for you to be creative, and let nobody say, nah, you need to sound like this, or nah. As long as you have your sound, your qualities at a certain space to compete, like take the chance, take the risk, be creative, do something different, make it feel good or make it feel crazy. But we just got to be just creative in what we're doing, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what hip hop is. Hip hop is supposed to, allow us to be creative, and what we'll force. Like, you got to think about the birth of hip hop and think about, you know, how we got here. Back in the days, the lunchroom table, all we had was we making beats on the table. We don't have no creative anything. We taking a penny and we hitting the table, boom, boom, taking a pencil and using it as scratching it on the table as like with scratching, while the other kid in the lunchroom is rapping. Just being creative with what you have, that allow people to do anything, man. And this just transcends just not just music, but just entertainment and everything else, man. When you're in certain situations and confines, you find ways to get yourself out of it. You're creative. You find ways to endure. And we need to get back to that. Just being creative. That's where the best, technology is built from. That's where the best music comes from. That's when everything, fashion, everything comes from.
It's real, man. I see so much stagnation, man. It's like it just doesn't seem like it's moving forward. And I'm looking at some of these articles and they're talking about, oh, it's declining, it's this, that, and the third. And nothing would make them happier. And when I say them, I say, there's a proverbial them. Nothing would make them happier than to really wipe out the infrastructure around this thing that we eat from. Like that's really people have to really understand that too, that you have to protect the infrastructure in which you earn your money. And if you hand it over to too much cookie cutter, too much violence, too much everything, then you're gonna mess around and let the genre disappear on you, or the opportunities that you would have, you're not gonna have those opportunities anymore, because they're gonna basically go with a safer option. Right. An option that we can have more control over. an option that's, less detrimental to the community. And that's been a big problem too in our situation in dealing with us, is that, the violence, man. The violence is what really is really hurting, in my opinion, the genre. It's the violence.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
incessant violence. It's like, I ain't never seen nothing like this, where, people are just senseless violence, man. And there's no value for life anymore, which is just an odd space where people are right now. And I can't 100% say it's not influenced by the music, because just listen to it. So
yeah.
that's
I
that's
think
that's that's another
it's the
conversation.
way. Yeah, it is. It's not just some music, but also how the music is received, and I mean that's definitely a topic in itself, man, and it's debatable and controversial in its own right, But Jug, like, if we really had to offer like producers and artists, you know, some advice or steps, you know, in regards to this situation, like, what would you tell them?
Well, I would first say that we have to take some risks musically. I think there's always, there used to be a time where an album used to have, like you said, a body of work would have the stuff that you need for commercial viability, and then they would have some stuff on the album where the artist would experiment a little bit, right?
Yeah,
So you basically try to satisfy both worlds, where you had your 3 to 4 singles that you needed for commercial viability to make sure that you can segue yourself to your next deal, and then you had some things that you can kind of experiment with to see where it would go, right? And in some cases, the stuff that you experimented with became the commercial viability stuff, right? That's became the
right.
commercial stuff. You experimented and it hit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you have to find a way to be able to take those songs and to be able to marry them together in a certain way. And that was like the 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 genius of the Tupacs, or the geniuses of the Bigs, who are able to take those two different lanes and marry them on a project, right? Or and that's also the genius of the Kanye West of the world, the genius of RZA, the genius of Dr. Dre, and people like that, who are able to take those elements and put them together. So if I'm giving advice to producers, it's like, yes, you do need to make sure that you have some commercial viability in your records. Yes, you do need to do that. But there's also, take some risks in between. Like, there should be some risk taking that's being made to kind of push the envelope of what to create. Because what used to happen, or what still should happen, is that if you listen to a dope if you listen to a dope record from one guy, it make you want to go make your record. Like,
right.
sometimes you would have a song that would bang so crazy, you'd be like, I gotta get in the lab. I can't wait to get in the lab,
Word.
because
Yeah.
this is just like, that song is just so crazy that I gotta go in. I gotta find something to knock that out the box, you know.
Right.
And that level of competition, and that level of and they complain about that in the NBA, where everybody's cool now. Everybody's friends outside the court. So when they get on the court, there's no real no competition, because no one wants to hurt their friends. Like, listen, like, where's the competition that helps to give us that exciting level of entertainment? Like, if we're all kumbaya in the room, it's like, everybody's kumbaya. Like, where's the challenge? Where's the guy who wants to be the best? Where's the guy who wants to be better than the next person? Like, where is that? And I think a lot of that has been erased, because it's like, don't get me wrong, I don't knock collaboration. I think collaboration is good for innovation to a degree. I also feel that, there has to be some a level of decent, friendly competition to help to push the needle forward a little bit. I think that's not I don't think that's apparent anymore.
Right. You're absolutely right. I remember us listening to certain beats and
So you could, man, just say the names, man. Like, yo, there were some
man,
heavy fucking hitters, man, that we had to compete with coming up. Like, people
yo,
don't realize, like, we're coming up during the No ID era. We're coming up during the Just Blaze era, the Alchemist era. Like, we're battling these guys to get on these projects.
get on the project and
Rockwaller,
Rockwell,
you know what I'm saying? Trackmasters, like you're battling these guys to get on these projects.
yeah,
Like, think about it, because we're
that's what
working
it
with the
was.
top tier artists. If we think about it, if we're working with Nas, or if we're working with Prodigy, if we're working with these top tier artists, everybody's trying to get on these projects. And these were the top guys. So, some still are the top guys now. And it's like you had to battle to get on those projects. So you had to come with your super, super duper A game. It wasn't, for God's sake, Capital Punishment has RZA, right? Rockwaller. Who else is on that joint?
It had a hitman, young,
Hitman, right?
yeah,
Young Lord.
it had everyone, yeah,
Everybody on this thing. So it's like, when you talk about those kind of projects, or even if you go to say Jadakiss top 5 Dead or Alive, same thing. Just Blaze on this joint, Alchemist on this joint, like Swiss Beats on this joint. Like, so you're battling the best guys. So I don't understand what people are doing now when it's like, okay, hey, we're collaborating. Okay. If you're collaborating,
let's all get the bag together and just keep it safe.
the music is supposed to be phenomenal if they're collaborating. And I'm not hearing that. That's what the
Right.
problem is for me. If I take Scott Storch and I put him with Dr. Dre, then you get still DRE. Right? Right? If I take Scott Storch and I put him with Timbaland, I get Cry Me a River.
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
The songs are supposed to be phenomenal when I put those people together. When I put those forces together, it's supposed to be phenomenal music come out of this thing. I don't see that coming. I don't see that happening. This music is still cookie cutter. It's coming out as still cookie cutter. And you got all these people playing all over these tracks. Like, no, that shouldn't be the case.
5, 10 producers. It's supposed to be the most.
Man.
When that joint come out, every producer's supposed to be running for the hills. Like, I gotta get back in the lab.
Like, goddamn, what did you do? Yeah, like, you're supposed to be scared.
Like that. Where'd you get these sounds from? Why does it sound like that? How'd you do it?
Come on,
Like,
man.
like you would figure, you would think, and unfortunately it doesn't work like that, it seems, but you would figure because of technology, you figure because of so much resources, and you figure so many people involved, you figure that folks will pull from every resource and find the most craziest things, the most obscure sounds, the most, lost sample somewhere or something nobody's heard of from across the, you figure that people will pull all of these things and put them together and come up with something so crazy, but that is not what's happening.
No, it's not.
You just
Shit
get a record. Like,
shit is weak.
I see a credit with 10 producers, and I'm like, well, that's the records I got. Like me and Jen, I could have just did that real quick. Like that's it. Like, there's not even a switch up. How you got 10 producers and there's not even a switch up?
Shit crazy to me, bro. That's
Like,
what
I
I
do?
that's what I don't that's what I'm not understanding. And that's what I don't get. Like, I'm not understanding, like, there are so many people involved, but it's not pushing the envelope.
Right.
Music has been so, I want to start cursing now, right? It has been so fucking mediocre. Like, I can't understand why this shit has been so mediocre for so fucking long. It's like, it's been so fucking mediocre. I can't listen to these records. Like, what's the last classic album you had your hands on? Like, what's the last one that you heard that you cannot stop playing? Right? It's like, come on, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I shouldn't have to keep, listening to my legacy artists to get some sort of vibe going. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Hit Boy and them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I shouldn't have to there's supposed to be there's supposed to be young bulls that's supposed to be giving us, the new Illmatic. It's supposed to be a young bull giving us the new Southern Playalistic. Like, where is
But
that?
but what happens is the new generation, the next generation, they're being brought up in basic music. They're not being born into great records. You know, the records that they're being born to, if we think about age and we think about when certain albums came out, you know, there's a generation of kids that's being born into, like, their legends or their goats are artists that have been kind of just playing it safe. You know,
Got it. Good records.
good records, but they're not phenomenal. They're not, whoa.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, that's it. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna stay at this level. And and nobody is like trying to like I love when Outkast said we doing a totally different type of album. Like, one album was one way, and then when Outkast came on the next album, it was totally, what is this?
But let's think about this, right? Let's say, for example, let's say for some of these guys, for some of the younger generation, the GOAT would be Lil Wayne, right?
Okay.
What if Lil Wayne took that approach like these guys took? What if he just didn't progress past the block is hot Lil Wayne? What if he just stayed the bling bling Lil Wayne, just stayed right there? He was successful, right? What if he
Right.
just stayed right there? What if he didn't just keep going? Shoot. Like, come
And
on,
doing
man.
all sorts of kinds of,
Come on, man. Like, come on, man. Like, let's be honest, man. Like, the guys ain't really like, you know, they got too comfortable, man. Like, they got too comfortable. Nobody don't want to take the risk. Nobody want to be great. I think that's the difference between the Wheezys and everybody else. Like, he want to be great. And that's the reason why you hear the music doing what it's doing, is because he want to be great. Yo, Drake wants to be fucking great. That's the reason why he's just beating them in the head. He doesn't take
yeah,
it as a
he's doing all sorts of stuff.
yeah. He
You don't know
doesn't
what you're
take it.
gonna get from him.
Yeah, he doesn't take it lightly. So even at the top of the game, he's at the top of the food chain. Who will probably go down as probably one of the, maybe the top hip hop artists of all time in terms of the length of the run, right? The amount of number ones and all types of stuff like that. When you look at this guy, it's like, this is a person that wants to be great. And I just think that's the difference. I think some people are just happy with being mediocre, and some guys just want to be great. Some guys want to be.
But let's be for real. Let's be real though. Not every single Drake record was great.
I'm not saying
However,
that. I'm not saying that.
However, what I do respect is the creativity. I do respect him doing way different things, to
All
the
the
point
time.
where he's no longer just a hip hop artist. And I think he takes the risks, and more times he hits than misses.
But that also cements his legacy. It also
Mhm.
creates longevity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what artists don't realize. It's like, if you're not evolving, your longevity is, you're not going to last. That's the problem. That's the problem with not pushing the envelope, is that you can't last. You can't last. You're going to get trapped in that proverbial box, and you can't go past. Once you get known for that, and that's all no longer viable in music anymore, you can't go past that anymore. They won't accept it. So that's the part of the problem why you have to break the barriers. It's because you basically are putting a glass ceiling on your career. Whether
Yep.
you're a producer or you're an artist, that's what you don't really understand, is that you're putting a glass ceiling on you moving forward because you're unwilling to take the risk. And that's where the problems come in. So I didn't understand that early on. I'm like, why is this guy making this music like this? Why did he just keep making it like that? No, if he continued to make it this way, he couldn't stretch that career for 10 years. He'd be only good for the 5. Couldn't be here 15, 20 years later. There would be no way. It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, people. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, like, if y'all not paying attention, like, you got to pay attention to what's going on. Like we want the music to progress. We want people to get better, but we got to do better. you know, it starts with us. It starts with us doing different things and really challenging each other. And I think we got to have these kind of conversations.
Yeah, I want to be inspired, man. I want to hear a record that's gonna make me go back to the lab, man.
I'm trying to tell you, man.
I haven't heard that in years. I haven't heard anything in years.
That's the problem.
And then what happens is I become a victim too. I become, you know, making records that you know, I can easily become that. And, you know, we have to take the time out and say, you know, stop, turn off the radio, let's try and dig up something creative. Let's try and figure something out, you know? And I understand that some of these producers, man, that the frustration, you know, that, you know, they're being creative or they having a hard time, but what's out there in the world and what's popping is a certain type of music. Like, I understand that frustration. And at the same time, it's, you know, you want to be successful. You want to get the placement. You want to do this and you do that. But I do think that we have to find a way to split it in half. And what I mean is, okay, if you need to make those type of records for certain things, okay, fine. But I do not lose your creativity. I think you need to hold on to that. Create those records. Find a local artist that you vibe with. You know, develop a sound, push that sound, and go from there. You know, I think we have to be able to do those things, you know, because if we're not doing that, if we're just focusing on I'm just going to do this, I'm going to do this, I gotta eat, I gotta get a bag, I'm just focused on this. I think it's short-lived, and you're doing more damage to not just yourself, but the whole community. You know, like, how long is this going to last? You know, if you're doing that, you better be doing something else on the side as far as developing something new and fresh and able to release to the world. You know, find an artist around you that's dope and that's willing to like listen and hear out your plans and your visions creatively. You know, find the sound, find a way to, you know, hit the record different, you know, different elements, different sounds, you know, and push that, you know, to the world, man. Like, with streaming services and things like that, man, push it out there. Now you don't have a A&R, a hating A&R, you know, in front of you saying you can't get on or you can't do this. You got all the means, man, to be creative, man. You just got to just put it together and put it out there. But, you know, you got to do it. You know, when we all need it as the culture, we need it. I don't know what else to say, man.
Nah, there's nothing else to say.
It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating.
You got to leave it right there, folks. It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. Just make sure that you're following us at Arkatech Beatz. You know, if you have any questions on the music industry, follow us at Arkatech Beatz and drop, you know, some DMs or something in the comments. If you haven't already gotten our ebook, The Songwriter's Guide to Song Registration, The Essential Steps to Protect and Monetize Your Music, it is free on our website at arkatechbeatz.com. And listen, man, stay creative, man, and let's get it going out there. So until next time, everybody,
peace.
Arkatech Beatz.